Okay, this is the meeting of the Hyde Park Central School District's Board of Education, March 14th, 2019, at Violet Avenue School. Can I have a motion to enter into executive session to discuss confidential matters pertaining to pilot discussion, unit negotiations, and confidential personnel matters?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. I just want everybody to know.
So, welcome to the Hyde Park Central School District's Board of Education here at Violet Avenue. Whoever brought the pie, thank you for Pie Day. It was very good. After we do the pledge, we're going to ask you to please remain standing for a moment of silence for one of our district employees that have just passed away. Superintendent Greer will explain.
Yeah, Rick Morrison in our Facilities and Operations Department passed away unexpectedly. Not yesterday, the day before.
If you could, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain standing, please. Thank you. Rick was a veteran of the United States Navy, and he also served in the Roosevelt, what used to be the Statsburg, and then Roosevelt Fire Department, and from 2006 to 2009, he was actually the fire chief.
There is no agenda modifications. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Upcoming events. Friday and Saturday is the spring musical at the FDR High School, starting at 7 o'clock, and on Sunday, the matinee is at 2 p.m. On Wednesday, March 20th, is the DLT meeting at District Office and College Information Night at 6:30 at FDR. On Thursday, March 28th, parent-teacher conferences. There will be an early release and a Board of Education meeting at the district office that evening. And on to Pride.
Okay. So at North Park, they've been involved in the PARP project, which is the Pick a Reading Partner. And it's a good way for students to, really get more engaged in the books that they're reading. And as a school, they're reading the book Stuart Little. And so last week, starting on Monday, they had their Spirit Days. Monday was Crazy Hair and Sock Day. Tuesday was School Colors Day. Wednesday was Wacky Wednesday, so they wore mismatched clothes. And then Thursday was Dress Like Your Favorite Book Character Day. And they had a big assembly on Thursday, and there was no school Friday. So there are a lot of pictures on the North Park website. They're pretty cute of all the kids dressed up and stuff. The Circus Project is returning to North Park from March 11th to the 15th, and on the 15th at 6:30, fifth graders will be starring in the event at Haviland Middle School, and everyone is invited. There's an official flyer on the North Park website. Two student athletes signed their national letters of intent on Tuesday in the library at FDR. Paul Sanford, he'll be attending Marist College. He's going to be on their cross-country and track and field teams, and he's majoring in data science and minoring in computer science. And Elizabeth Gross, she is going to Bay Path University. She's going to be playing softball, and she's majoring in education. Today, they performed the play for senior citizens of Hyde Park and sixth graders from Haviland. And I know it was already said, but the musical Barnum on Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. and on Sunday, the 17th at 2 p.m. They've been working really hard, and a few classes were able to sneak in today during the play, and they said all good things about it. So there's a senior class fundraiser on March 24th. It's a pancake breakfast for Rocky Strong at the Crown Heights Clubhouse. For those of you that don't know, Rocky Strong provides financial assistance to caregivers and their seriously ill family members currently in treatment and if they're in great financial need. Tickets in advance are $12 for adults and children under 12 are $6, and under 5 is free. And at the door, adults are $15 and children under 12 are $8. If you need tickets, I also have tickets, so. And there will be a PTSA clothing drive on the 23rd. It's at the FDR main entrance. They're really just looking for clothes, blankets, toys, anything is greatly appreciated. And that's it.
Any other pride from the board? At this time, I would like to invite Jeff Cady up. He's from the Pleasant Valley Fire Department.
He's got it.
Okay.
Here?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for having me this evening, and I hate to have my back to you guys, but just a little bio on me. I've worked for George for about 6 years. I think I started my 6th year. I'm the president of the Salt Point Volunteer Fire Company. I'm also the department chairperson of the Pleasant Valley Fire District. Been in the volunteer fire service for 35 years, and grew up in a firehouse. So, just a quick thing here on what I'm doing. My dad is a Korean War vet, and he got a chance to go on honor flight 2 years ago, and he picked me as his guardian. Why, I don't know, because I thought we were going to end up in jail. But anyway, so we went to Washington, D.C. It was a great day. They treated the veterans like rock stars. And, I'd always had deep in my heart, the veterans, if it wasn't for the veterans, we wouldn't be here. So I found out early last year, around this time, that the wall that heals, which is the Vietnam Memorial replica wall, was coming in Newburgh. And I said to my wife, I said, what do you think about a trip? And she said, well, it might work. So I talked to a few people. I've got real good friends in Pleasant Valley, of course, living there 54 years. I had people behind me, the sign shop in the valley, a printer who printed all of the flyers and everything for us. The sign shop did medallions for us for the veterans. They had Madison's Pizza, they did pizza, a whole bunch of stuff. Adams, Copperfields, plus numerous donations from people, because I had no idea how much this was going to cost. So, asked for money. We ended up, after I paid all the bills, with over $1,100 left. I asked the committee what you want to do, and they said, let's send it to the wall. So the fire company collected the money. We sent over $1,100 to the Wall That Heals Foundation. We received a nice letter back. We framed it, and it's hanging in our firehouse. My first problem was transportation. And I said, well, I know a guy in transportation. So I talked to George, and I said, what's the possibility of using school buses? And he says, well, you kind of hit a home run, because there's law, which I didn't know of how you can and where and how you can use school buses. One is a fire department and one is a veterans organization. So I pitched it to George, and he said, we'll do whatever we can do. See if you can get drivers to volunteer. I got drivers to volunteer. I'd like to name them: Linda Lawler, Fred Orr, Ray Davis, and Brian Tierney. All volunteered their time for the day to either drive a bus or assist to getting our veterans down to Newburgh. So we got our veterans in Newburgh. We came back and had a nice reception at the firehouse. But without George spearheading this to get me transportation, it wouldn't have happened. And with the school board members, I really appreciate everything that you did for us, not just for the fire department, obviously, but for the veterans. We took 54 veterans and 35 family members to Newburgh and back safely. on 3 Hyde Park school buses and 1 Dutchess County Loop bus provided by Mark Molinaro. So, George, I got a little something for you.
Surprise.
You got your hair cut just for something today. So this is just a little something, George, you can hang in your office, whatever you would like to do with it. It's a picture of the veteran standing in front of the firehouse. The wall that heals, with great appreciation.
That's cool, Jeff.
Thank you. I do, if I could, I have just a couple things. I know you got one of these in August, but if you want to hang that on like the corner of the, we'll do that. And then these are the medallions that Richard Canaro for Valley Custom Sign Shop made. Every veteran and family member received it.
It's beautiful.
And I would like to give everyone
Beautiful, thank you.
one tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I think I just have enough. I think I counted right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Jeff, I have one.
Okay.
Yes, make sure we have for everybody.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep. You're welcome.
Very cool.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Oh, I'm going to have enough.
That's the woodwork you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jeff, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me to come here. And it's the best job I've ever had.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Game was last week.
I know we have a lot of our veterans from the Vietnam War and all the other are fast declining, and I think we need to, even as a board, recognize that and share and to do the remembrance of those that have served for our country. So, on to that.
Well, so I think there was some other pride with the, I think Sarah Trainer finished like 3rd at Nationals, 4th at Nationals, and the girls' basketball had a tremendous run. I don't know if anybody was there to talk about it, but,
Dan and I were there, yeah.
okay. I think they came in, like, they made it to state
They made it to the
quarterfinals, right?
The state quarterfinals, which was the regional final, and they came up with all the public school nemesis of all schools to play. A Catholic school in Binghamton that drew their team from all of Binghamton.
Yeah.
Whereas Hyde Park compares in no way, shape, or form to the size of that. What I did discover, my plans were to go up on Sunday. The weather, as it turned out, wasn't suitable. At the last minute, I received an email informing me that the game was being broadcast on television, so even though I didn't get up there, I got to see the entire game on a website called NFHSnetwork.com. It highlights and actually videos and transmits games of significance throughout the state and beyond the state. They carried both the girls' game and the Poughkeepsie High School game at the site up in Binghamton, which was amazing. What I was most appreciative of was the announcers they had doing that game were so professional and so knowledgeable. I haven't seen anything approaching it. See, even some of these commentators we see, and I've been watching religiously for the last 2 weeks leading up to the NCAA. These two gentlemen were amazing. They had all of the issues in place. They had all of the locations in place of where the schools came from, previous history, little things of what I didn't even realize. And I was there 37 years ago when we won the states. Karen O'Connor was leading the team that time we won the states. She had sent a letter of congratulations for moving ahead and wishing them luck in the regional finals. She teaches at a school that's got the same name as the school we lost to, Seton Catholic. Amazing coincidence, but it really was something. The girls played an amazing game. They came up against a team that had 2 Division I forwards playing for them, both at 5'10". We had 2 girls at 5'9", and I think individually both girls were outweighed by the two opponents by at least 30 pounds, and it wasn't bulk, it was muscle. They were absolutely fantastic. They made a great run in the second game, but their entire run the whole season was based on quickness, speed, and my body be damned, I'm going to go get the ball no matter what. So they had an amazing season, and I've been watching that. Like I said, I was there when we won the state championship in '87. I was there when we did this run, and they just were amazing. It was a great thing to see. And one thing also should be mentioned is that the girls cheerleaders finished 4th in the state in what the division was called large schools, small team. And so they were the 4th best team throughout the entire state. And it was an amazing performance by them. And sort of a tip of the hat to their coach, who's leaving after this season. So Fran is leaving on a good note. Taking these girls this far, and we're going to be we talk about hunts for teachers, and we talk about hunts for coaches, and this is going to be an amazing search to find somebody of her quality to pick up the program.
Yeah, and I apologize. I don't know if we had a chance to do all the state meets. We had Lydia Reining's son go to states and take 4th place. We had Cimarelli's taking 6th place in state. That was swimming. We had our gymnasts at states.
Bowling, Austin Trainer, right?
And then, what's that?
Austin Trainer was bowling, he was at state.
Bowling, yeah. And then, was Sanford, did Paul Sanford make it to states along with Sarah Trainer? So it was funny, we did our end of the season wrap up, but then so many of our athletes went on to states. We didn't really recap that, but yeah.
I think the last time we said everybody was going to states, but now the
Okay.
results are in.
Now the results are in, but it was an unbelievable winter season. It went straight into the start of spring sports, and the girls cleaned up every female athletic team this winter. Went far.
And Sarah Trainer continued last weekend. She was at the a national meet down in the city, and she finished, I believe, 4th at that national event, which is amazing. And she's still got a year to go here.
One last thing about the cheerleaders that impressed me. I was talking to a friend the other day. Every one of those cheerleaders has a 95 or above average.
Yeah. That's something probably should be mentioned. I believe this is an inside scoop because my wife does the applications and gets the results back. I believe every one of our participating teams in the winter season, but one, got recognition as an academic achiever from the state.
The Scholar Athlete, yeah.
Scholar Athlete Awards.
Great.
So these kids are working hard in many directions. It's amazing.
Just one other pride. I would like to recognize Violet Avenue. Violet Avenue sends representatives to every board meeting. And just as a board, we appreciate that you guys are there and listening and watching. So I'd like to give you guys a round of applause. Okay, on to superintendent's report.
We're good. We covered it all, and the rest is coming up.
We're not doing that one.
Is that here? Oh, sorry. There's something under superintendent's report. The district plan for shared decision-making is on the agenda, and by virtue of adopting the agenda, it's approved. This is done every 2 years. This is what guides our district leadership team structure and our building leadership team structures. We tweaked it a little. We made some positive minor revisions this year, basically just clarified how parents are selected for the district leadership team and the building leadership team. We also added a little bit of clarification on how the decisions to do district-wide surveys were made. Other than that, this is the guidance document on how we function to develop strategic plans at the district level and at the building level.
Okay.
I didn't even see that.
Up next, we have Deanna. She'll give us the Violet Avenue presentation.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to have you here. Thank you so much for recognizing the teachers, because they are doing a really great job. And as supportive as they are of you, they're that way for me every day. So thank you for that, because it's definitely well-deserved. So welcome to Violet Avenue. It's nice to have you here. I'm glad you enjoyed pie on Pie Day. I can't take credit. It is totally Mrs. Lown. But I'm glad you enjoyed it, and it was a nice celebration of your attendance this evening. Okay. So to start with our mission and vision, our mission at Violet Avenue is a diverse, caring community that's dedicated to excellence. And our motto that we wear proudly and on our signage and our lanyards every day is that our kids are daring to be awesome, which they definitely show each and every day with how hard they're working. To give you a snapshot of who we are, I put together our demographics, and I won't read off everything, but some things that you'll notice in our data is we are increasingly more multicultural year by year. We see some slight increases in our multiculturalism, which makes it nice, and is an important part of our community. Our socioeconomic status from last year to this year remains about the same, around 70%, 69 to 70%. And our E&L population, we have our E&L English as a new language students for kindergarten, first and second grade. And that population of students has remained about the same as well. And we had a slight increase in students who are classified as special education students. Our ELA data for last year, you will notice that we had an overall increase in fourth grade, and our performance in both fourth and fifth grade were higher compared to the district, and catching up with the state as well. I put them side by side so you could see how the state was performing compared to the district, compared to Violet Avenue. Our math data, we also had our performance in fourth and fifth grade was pretty high compared to the district. We had a particular spike in fifth grade. So Mrs. Wood is here, one of our fifth grade teachers.
Go, Joanne.
I know, man, all by yourself. Hey, we're going for it. But a particularly high spike in math last year. And certainly that's a testament to all of the hard work that students have been doing in math throughout the years, not just in fifth grade. But that one was particularly high, even when compared to the state. And our fourth grade science results, we continue to perform very well. The overall percentage for science was 98%, scoring a level 3 or a level 4. So again, continuing really nice results in the area of science, and you'll see that compared to the district level and compared to the state level. We also enjoy relatively low opt-out rates. I know we've been talking about opt-out rates around the district, but luckily Violet Avenue does not have tremendously high opt-out rates. The overall percentage for opt-out rates was about 10%. Our fifth grade students, we had a slightly higher average in fifth grade. I'm not really sure exactly why that is, but there tended to be a few more parents who opted out in fifth grade. It was only 4% in fourth grade and 8% in third grade, so with an overall percentage of only about 10% of our students. For our MAPS growth scores, our ELA score was a 15 out of 20, which falls in the effective range. For math, it was 17 out of 20, which is also in the effective range. The overall building score was a 16, which was effective. And then, of course, our overall building rating was effective. Also on our state report card data, we had met our benchmark criteria in all areas. So we met criteria and had no areas or indicators where we needed improvement or where we were being watched. So that was really nice to see.
Like that.
Yeah, keeping an eye on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our improvement initiatives, we've continued this year to work with Generation Ready consultants to support our literacy instruction in both reading and math. We continue to offer professional development opportunities before school. And another shout out to teachers, that professional development before school is not only consultants that are coming in or myself or directors, but some of those have also been teacher-led. So their initiative and them being leaders within the building as much as directors or myself would be, or a staff developer. In those PD sessions, we've continued to review our test data. We're not only looking at summative test data from the state, but we're also looking at formative test data, so the testing information or the assessment information that we're getting on students that helps us to make adjustments as we go along throughout the year. Not just looking at that end of the year snapshot, but watching things as we go so that we can make shifts in our instruction to make sure we're meeting the needs of the kids. An important part of using that data is our data team process. We talk regularly about students to make sure that we're putting supports in place for them, making sure that they have quality primary instruction, and that if they are struggling with any of the primary instruction in class, that we're putting those academic supports in place for them so that they can be successful. And that goes hand in hand with the targeted AIS instruction. Our technology integration, our screen is one of them, which has been a great improvement from an administrator who just did a training day on Friday. It was so nice to have the computer and plug it in and things just happen. I didn't have to play with anything, and I didn't have to go in the back or get microphone. It just worked, and it was beautiful, and has really enhanced the space in here for professional learning. So that's just one example of how we're using technology in the building. We also have our interactive TVs in all classrooms, which are used to enhance the instruction that's happening in the classroom, and I see that everywhere. They're definitely being used, and the kids enjoy it. We have a Chromebook cart for every single grade level, which we use to provide both small group and whole group instruction. An entire class can be on the Chromebook doing a project at one time. And we have our technology lessons that are being delivered by our school librarian and also by the staff developer who comes in to support us. So that's Julianne Klein. And moving on, our building leadership goals this year. In June of last year, we decided that we wanted to work on our building culture a little bit with coming up with better expectations for kids. We kind of took an organic PBIS approach, so positive behavior in schools. If you had noticed when you came in, we have expectations for all of our environments. Teachers, we all worked together our final days in June. Instead of spending time in classrooms, teachers were really excited to do that work with me. We came up with common expectations and a reward system that involves Milano. So we have the common expectations, one of the posters on the bottom of the slide. For all of our environments, we spend time in the beginning of the school year teaching those expectations to the kids and what we expected of them, and also kind of the incentives that they would earn for following expectations. Our committee for positive behavior has involved parents and teachers working together. We're keeping a close eye on our data and constantly looking at how we can get better and how we can better support kids social, emotionally, behaviorally, as well as academically. So we're trying to enhance that piece to go along with our academic curriculum. For pride, Milano is definitely a great source of pride. He has been so motivating and calming and inspirational for both teachers and staff. He is a part of a reward system for kids. They earn time with Milano. As I said, he's part of our positive culture in the building. The kids have been reading to him. He's going to be involved in a tick lesson tomorrow afternoon, where the kids are going to check Milano for ticks as part of our health curriculum, and ties into the third grade books that Senator Serino just gave us. So he's worked into all those ways. He also has his mailbox outside. Sometimes he's a little slow writing back, but he's working on it. I tell the kids his pause, it makes it very difficult to type. But it really has enhanced the building tremendously, and he is supporting a lot of kids, and we're so thankful that he's a part of our school community. You can see he had a rough day today. Other sources of pride, we had our yearly STEAM evening. Mr. Heater was here for our STEAM evening, and Dr. Rychek was here as well, and we had a space theme this year, and there was an astronaut. There's a picture of the drop. The kids built lunars, and they had little marshmallow astronauts, and they had to try to save the astronaut. And they did a great job, and for the first time this year, Dr. Rychek had come to one of our meetings and suggested we pose a challenge to the parents, which they loved. They had to see the classic project where you try to build a spaghetti tower as high as you can out of spaghetti and marshmallows. They were very competitive, and they did a great job and really enjoyed it. So it was nice. And then they didn't help their kids, which was good too. We kept them very engaged. But it was, again, a great night. And that was one of our building leadership goals last year. And it was such a success last year that it's something we've continued every year since. Nancy Castaldo, who is a nonfiction author, came to visit us recently for PARP. And we had a dog theme throughout PARP, and Nancy Castaldo has actually written nonfiction books about working dogs. So she came and did a really nice presentation and made a really nice connection. To go along with STEAM, I forgot to mention, we also had the Star Lab here on the stage. All of the kids went through the Star Lab, and we had teachers who volunteered to teach those lessons to all of the classes. They tied it really nicely in with Greek and Roman mythology, with all of the constellations, and did a beautiful job. We've had a Community Helper Day, and I'll get into that when we talk about community partners. And you may have seen on the district website that we just had FDR boys basketball. The girls were going to come, but they were still very much in competition at that point. So we didn't want to steal them away from the real practice. But the boys were here, and they played our teachers, which was really fun. And there's a great picture. I may have heard that we dressed up because we knew we couldn't compete against them, but at least we could sort of make a fool and try to distract them. And we'd have some sort of shots. But it was a tremendous amount of fun. And all of the kids came down and watched a portion of that game, which was great. And our PTA does a tremendous amount. Ms. Procopo is here, and she's our PTA president, and after you vote today, will also be a staff member. It plans a tremendous amount within the building with our pizza danites and our harvest night with our haunted hallway downstairs, and many other events. And we also did our multicultural dance night, again, for the second year in a row, and that's part of our arts and education monies that we use, and that's our second and third grade, which is so well attended. If you haven't gotten to see it, it really is beautiful how it comes out in the end, and the dance performances the kids do from around the world. And the parents love it. We had standing room only for that event again this year. For community collaborations, we have a tremendous collaboration with Marist College. We continue that collaboration. I estimate, and we joke, we probably have about 100 Marist students a week. We're kind of an off-campus site. They're laughing because they know it's true. We have student teachers and Reading 2 and Reading 3 and campus ministry who all volunteer to provide small group instruction and to learn from our teachers. Marist very much considers Violet Avenue sort of a lab site for them because of the kind of quality teaching that's going on in the building. So it's a very valuable partnership, I think, for both of us. We've continued our work with Fairview Fire Department and their safety lessons, and they're coming in again this year to play kickball on field day. So we continue to have a nice partnership with them. Town of Poughkeepsie Police continues to help us support our safety, our lockdown drills, and review and refresher for staff. They also donate a tremendous amount of food to our families for Thanksgiving and Christmas. So they are also a very valuable partner. Church of the Messiah in Rhinebeck continues to fund quite a bit here to support our families. They have helped us with a backpack food program for our kids. We have a clothing closet. They've done coat drives for us. They've also done school supplies, and they have supported about $600 of support for Milano since August. So they've been a great contributor in wanting to support our families and the initiatives that we're trying to put in place to support them. We just enjoyed IBM eWeek. They came in and did a beautiful job with our kids. So it was nice to continue to foster our STEM in the building. And we continue to have foster grandparent program and volunteers in our classroom. So right now we have 3 as well, again this year. And I think I covered all of it. Does anyone have any questions for me about what's going on at Violet Avenue?
Can you give us some examples of what other things Milano's doing? I mean, when we first got, it was to help children in crisis and needs, and I'm just curious if you have anything on that.
Yeah, so he still does do that. So it may be that a teacher calls down and says it would be a great time for a visit. Sometimes that's sort of a planned, announced visit. Other times it might just be me casually walking by because a teacher is trying to provide an intervention for a student who may be headed towards having a difficult time, and usually that's enough to reset them. He will go on walks with students. He will just be available to them. Sometimes they would come down to my office. We've had students who've had a difficult time where Milano has just laid next to them and waited until they were calm and they were ready to return to class, which has been extremely effective. Other kids have responded to just sitting with him in the meeting area outside in front of the office and sort of brushing him or petting him until they're ready to go back to class if they're having a difficult time. He's also spent time in our 812 self-contained classes where he spent some time in there with children. He's been a part of lessons, and we've gone in with him and we've talked about that. So it's kind of as the student needs and as the teacher wants him in. So he's been very much sort of our plan when we're talking about individual plans for students to keep them engaged in their learning. Yeah.
I'd just like to comment, not that I'm prejudiced or anything about or biased, but those were really good test scores. They were really impressive. Not only were they well done, but they were better than previous years, and you're on an upward slant there, and I think you all, the teachers, everybody in the building should be commended for that. Obviously, you're doing something right. So, but I am a little biased, I will admit, but.
Thank you, Mr. Heater. Yeah, we're working, I mean, that's the goal, is to try to get a little better every year and try to do things a little bit better every year. And that's why we're doing all of this and trying to find ways, creative ways to enhance what we're doing so that we can just make it better and better for the kids. So, thank you. That means a lot. Anything else?
Thank you, Deanne.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Congratulations, Violet Avenue.
So next up, we'll have the budget update on Proposition 2, George Treadwell, for the Director of Transportation.
Good evening, folks. I'd like to start out by thanking the board and Dr. Rychek for the support with this bus proposition plan, because this is a huge part of the safety of the district, when we replace buses, keep them current, keep things going, and it's also a savings for dollars if we're running more current and good equipment. We're not sinking bad money into good, and there'll be a little bit more on that in a minute. Okay. Okay, this is what I try to give you some facts that we have every year, and they change. One of the things that I'll point out here that's really big, that's changed a lot, is the 42 schools and the 27 work sites daily. The 27 work sites has gone up, and what that is we take students from the high school out to different locations to work in the morning and then in the afternoon, and then bring them back. And them sites change all the time on us, and it creates a lot of work. They change every so often, or if something's not working out with the student, it changes. So we're up to 27 so far this year that we've had to transport students to. Another piece of this that changes, you look at the enrollment, the numbers that we're transporting. We've been over 4,000 for a long time. The district numbers have been down below 4,000. So this is the first year that we've seen that kind of a number with all the transportation that we've been doing, of all the kids that we're doing. We've never been below the 4,000, and this is the first year that we've seen that. And then the 1.4 million miles is pretty much what we do every year. That has hardly changed at all. Maybe a couple 100,000 it might change. This one I will also just point out a couple of that are really, these other ones have been on the books a long time, but two of them that I'll point out that are really changed for us is the statutory 50 miles for homeless students. That one was there, it's been there a few years now. It keeps us rolling, it keeps us busy with that. Their sites are all over the county. We try to work with other school districts, see who can cross and over. Maybe we can meet them and do that. It doesn't happen a whole lot just because of the nature of things. But the new one that just hit us is the foster student to the school of origin based on the Dutchess DSS decision, Department of Social Services decision. We are getting right now a lot of that. We got 4 right now that we've been working all week on to try to get them placed. They're placed, but we're trying to get transportation set up for them, and it's been quite a task. We've made some really good headway today on that, but that's just a piece that's really brand new. Linda's telling me that when it came to us, there was going to be an aid factor for this. They don't know how they're going to leave it to New York, I guess. They don't know how the aid process is going to work, but there's supposed to be aid for this transportation once they get it all set up. So this is something that we saw. It came to us. We didn't see much, and then we've got a rush on this in the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 weeks. So the rest of that is all stuff that's been there. The replacement plan, I'll talk again about the student safety. That's really what the goal is here. It's a recommendation from SED and the DOT. It always has been. The rust, you've seen those photos over the years. That's it. And really, the useful life of a school bus is 10 years. I mean, after that, you're really sinking a lot of money into them. You got them in. The rust issues really start to take over, and obviously, the newer equipment provides better service. The good money on bad we talk about, and it keeps the debt service there. In a couple of slides, we're going to see where our bus prop numbers are, and we're trying to keep them right there in the same line so that it's only changing a few 100,000, if that, every year. And it allows the mechanics to do more daily repairs and the DOT work. And then this written updated plan that we have, it's a living document, I like to call it. It changes all the time. What we're going to show you tonight for the recommendation for the replacement may not be the actual buses. It'll be the same size and everything, and all that, exactly what we're doing, but we may see a vehicle that's started to gave us more headaches for between now and June when we get the new bus. So that's something that we use that thing, and that it's a very handy tool for us, for me going through this. For a couple of years now, we've been talking about the diesel, the LPG, and the gas. We had an energy committee discussions on that. Perry was part of that. And I just want to give you a little update on some of that information that we had talked about. At that committee, one of our the discussion things where we talked about the downtime and the complexity of today's diesel engine was a big topic that we talked about. Well, the downtime with the gas buses that we got last year has literally been zero. The only issue I've had with the gas buses is there was an update for the transmissions that somehow didn't get done. The company came, did the update, and what a difference in that vehicle it's made. But that's the only thing. There was no downtime with that. They did it between the runs. And so all that complexity that we talk about, it's gone out of that situation. Not to say that that would not happen with the propane, but for what we're working with right now, that's gone away with literally no downtime. Each of the vehicles we talked about has pros and cons. We could stand here and talk about that. We talked about it at the committee for quite a while, and you could go either way. All three types, you could find a pros and cons for them. I tell you this: I spoke with our drivers who are driving them. They love them. They love that they're quieter. They love that they're no different than the diesel models we've been running, the interior and how all of that, but the engine-wise, it's quieter. They can hear the kids. They can hear things going on behind them. And these are all things that were brought up when we did the committee work that we knew was going to happen. Again, the same thing with the propane. It's just the diesel engine is the one with the noise. We talked about a need for the additional fueling station for the propane, if we went to the propane buses. We put these 4 gas buses in the fleet, and we don't even know that they're there. It's any different than what we're doing. We didn't have to do a new fueling thing. We didn't have to do that. So that part of it worked as well. Obviously, we haven't gotten to that point yet, but we'll be able to use the diesel tanks that we have and the gas tanks that we have. Once you get the number where you're using too much fuel in the gas tanks, we could actually swap tanks out and just clean them and do that, and that's still something that we'd look at. We received that study. That was quite the presentation. Perry sat through that. A lot of the things that we're talking about here, they went through, and we're seeing it, and I'll talk a little bit later about that, but all the things that they talked about, I could use our vehicles that we did and the miles that we did this year to show pretty much what they were telling us is actually pretty factual from where we're at right now. The initial vehicle cost between the different fuel types, we talked about that last year. There is a difference. So I'll just give you an example that the gas bus is $108,000 this year. I'll give you round numbers. The diesel bus is $110,000. These are all 66s. And the propane bus would be $118,000. So that's the difference in the pricing. That's this year's OGS pricing on those vehicles. And then the other thing I'll talk about a little bit is about the fuel. Okay? The fuel pricing right now is $1.67 per gallon in February for gasoline. I wish we were paying that at the pump, probably all of us. The diesel was $2.12, we'd probably take that as well. The $2.12 for the diesel, and the propane is at $1.25, and we'd all jump at that one. So that's the stuff that we got going on. That's OGS pricing through February. What I did was to give you a little bit of comparison on the gas mileages, okay, the miles per gallon. We had talked about, when we did when they gave us the presentation, they talked about the diesel, propane would be 3 to 5 miles per gallon. The gasoline would be 5 to 7 miles per gallon, and the diesel would be 7 to 9 miles per gallon. That's the estimates that they gave us. Well, I took the 3 of those buses and the 3 drivers that were on the same runs as last year. So it's all of that's the same. They were the same drivers, the same route. The mileage came out, there was about a 200-mile difference in the mileage that they drove through February 28th. And the gasoline bus was getting about 5.04 per gallon, and the diesel bus was getting about 7.35 per gallon, right where they estimated that we would probably see those numbers. I spoke with a neighboring district that's running the propane, and they're looking at somewhere between 3, 4, maybe 5 miles per gallon on the propane. So everything that the committee, they told us in that work, in that presentation, is kind of come to fruition. It's going to be right there. The maintenance issues there's really not a big, 6 months isn't really a big bite of that, and they're all fairly new buses, because they were a year old, and then this year, and the maintenance is very, very, there's $900 maintenance for the diesel, and about $400 maintenance for the gasoline with oil changes. There's no been work done, but those are the things that have come up on that. So just to give you an idea, just that we did all that work, and Perry sat through that again, and it's pretty much what they told us is what I'm starting to see just in the early goings with this. This is just the capital, just about keeping the debt service the same way. It was all over the board pretty much before, the first few years before Doug worked on this committee where we went to a 12-year replacement plan for the buses. And we're starting to see that here. And that's really what we're looking at right now. The last year was 692. We're going to try to keep that, but the number that's really important to me here is the number of purchases. That was really what we were trying to do. We're trying to keep that in the between 8 and 10, where there's no real spikes in the purchases that we need to do, and it looks like we're going to be able to do that as I look at the plan moving forward. These are just numbers on the vehicles that are being replaced and what we're costing us to keep them on the road mechanically wise. A lot of it's rust issues, to be honest with you. We're back to that. And so, these are the ones that we're recommending for replacement. Let me back up. Nope, go to that. These right here, so the vehicles we're replacing are averaging 11.7 years of age, right near the 12 that we were looking for, and it's about 157,000 miles they got on them. Again, the mileage isn't so as much important as the work that we have to put into to keep them going once they get to these ages. So the recommendation is that we'll, for the gas buses, it's 366 passengers at the 108, and that's what we're looking at for the gas total. I'm looking to get one more 72 with the luggage for the sports trips. Again, we've always had 2 buses on that we had dedicated pretty much for sports trips. They were always 72s. When we started buying 66s, we ended up with 166 in that to keep a newer bus there. So we're looking to get another 72 with the luggage compartment. It helps out a little bit. They're not big on a school bus, but it does help, and there's some room to keep some things underneath. So that's the price on that, $114, and it's a little bit more than what I had quoted you earlier on the diesel engine. That was for a 66. This is for a 72 with a little luggage compartment. And then I'm looking to replace 530 passenger vans. These are vans with a lot of miles on them. A couple of them, 1 or 2 are right near 200,000. We're struggling to keep them. They're always in the top. 2 of them are there today. They were working on them. They've really gotten past their useful life. As far as that, we're sinking good money into bad again. The other thing that I'm recommending that the district purchase is a snow scraper. And let me give you some examples of why I went to this. Last winter, we were involved in a situation where we had a bus driving down the road. Some snow flew off of that bus and hit a passing car. It hit the windshield, cracked the windshield. The driver, we didn't really see what happened. The driver didn't even realize that it had happened. So the car came back to the bus garage. We looked at it. We ended up having to replace their windshield through insurance. So then this year, the opposite happened. We had a bus driving down 9G this year, and I think the pictures were shared, and ice flew off the car in front of us, hit the windshield of that bus, and we were very fortunate. There was no kids on, and we were fortunate the driver didn't get hurt. It was really bad. It made a mess. So what I'm recommending is that we look at getting this scraper system. What I don't really, in that compound, we have no place to make a permanent setup. But they do have them where they're mobile. You can use it, set it up where you need to set it up. And when you're done with it, when you got everything's gone through, you can pick it up and you can roll it. It's on wheels, and you just put it back in the corner out of the way. So we're recommending we get that style. And this is just, so that's what it does. Your bus drives through it, and then it comes out on the back side of that. It's a little bit labor intensive. As you can see, there's got to be a gentleman there running it, because what it does is it picks that up. The bus goes through. Once the bus is through, we lift it up again so that the next bus doesn't run into it. Once the bus is in place, then they drop it down to that height, and then you run it through. And then you also have to have someone there with a plow to push the snow out of the way to do it. But as large as our fleet is, to do that, people will out there, some of them get out there with roof rakes, and it's just, you've done your own roofs. But to do that with a bus parked in between, next to another bus, it's really a difficult thing. So financially, I think it's probably a better thing because of, the lawsuit you'd face if somebody really got hurt with snow flying off. Another picture that I always see, and we've done something about that, is sometimes we're going north on 9G or south on 9G. The road is all wet where we are. So what we do is when we notice that, we run the sander just through that stretch to put some salt down to do that. To keep the road so that the road's not icing up, or we're not making a mess on the road and getting ourselves into another liability situation. So this, I think, is really going to save the district money. It's a smart thing to do. It's just, I'm trying to be proactive that we don't end up in a bad situation. And after having, in the last 2 winters, having something go on, that really kind of supports that. And that's just what it would look like. It's portable. You move it wherever you got to go, and that's it. I spoke with Elliot briefly about we're going to need an electric run to it if the board chooses to move forward with this. So that's just another expense that we'll have to do to get the electric so that we can plug it in. So that recommendation is one snow bus scraper, and it's a $31,780. The unfortunate piece of this, there's no aid on this thing. We looked around, Linda looked, I was looking, calling, there is no aid for that. So we're looking to put it in here, do it this way. The van and the bus cost, the 8 buses is $721,760. The district getting aid, which is nice aid, again, this year we're getting 60.1. That's the estimate right now. So that gives us a nice $433,000 chunk. So for the buses, it would be $287,282 after the $982 after the aid. You add the snow scraper to that, it comes up to $319,762. But the total prop, though, when you do that, the money that Linda's going to have to get borrowed will be $753,539.49. That's the first number plus the $31,000 for the snow scraper. So the total prop cost after aid just for the buses is that $319. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
So I was going to ask you about a snow scraper because I saw it online last week. So I'm kind of glad to see it there.
George, I had a question in reference to, I understand you're transporting, you have more and more trips where you're taking one student in one direction. Mm-hmm. You're not taking a busload of students. So what vehicles are you using when you have one student?
We've got 4 7-passenger vehicles that we do.
Okay.
Last year we bought another new one to replace an old one that one was probably 16 years old, so we took that off the road. And we've got 4 that we have the availability to run folks around, students around to the one school things. We're using that a lot of the times. Right now we're using that to go down and pick a child up in Wingdale to bring him up to the district to be educated. So that's what we're using. We got 4 of them.
I'm just wondering whether we should, is that something should we have more of those? I mean, operational costs got to be much lower on a vehicle like that.
It is. They are lower on that. I just don't see, right now, we've got enough to cover. It's something that we've got to definitely look at. That's a very good point, Perry. It's because this year, like I said, we're just really starting to get hit. Actually, I had to contract one out. We just don't have the people or the vehicles to do that.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's a good point, and we'll keep that on the radar for sure.
What initiatives do you have for getting more drivers or retention of drivers? That's
Yeah.
becoming an issue throughout the state.
It's becoming an issue again. We haven't had too much problem with that. This year, I've had 2 runs that we just can't get anybody for. We put it on Indeed. We've advertised like crazy, and I've had 2 open runs for probably a good portion of the year. One from the start and one part way through. So we do a training program, our own. We got 2 people training right now. And so we're just going to get the word out there again and do that. It's definitely a difficult thing, but the training helps us.
What's your success rate on getting people through training and passed with the new regs?
Since I've been here, we've only lost 2 people training that just said, this isn't for me.
Okay.
They couldn't use that little van and said, this isn't for me, but we rotate them through probably 2 to 3, sometimes 4 every year. We get them trained, and we usually have them in the pipeline for the summer when we do most of our hiring. So right now, we'll have 2 in the line, and we won't be able to get anybody else trained by that point. So we'll depend on the advertising and people looking to drive a school bus.
You ever do anything as simple, and maybe you do, simply signage out in front of the property?
We haven't done that, but that's something we got to think about. Put a van out there.
I can tell you in Red Hook, we found that to be extremely effective. You get local people.
Yep.
Because they're part-time jobs, and it works for people.
The part is, though, you guys are running a training program there, too?
We do a training program as well, yeah.
So that's a good thought, and we can stick that van out there and put a sign on it.
For a $75 banner, it's paid for itself. And move it around. Put it at one school for a while, and then put it at another school.
This is the first year we've struggled to really fill position. This time of year, it's always tough, because nobody wants to switch districts or do that at this time. They want to stay where they are, and they get their seniority to drive in the summer. But earlier in the year, before December and that, usually we don't have the problem, but we did struggle this year filling those 2 runs. So, point well taken.
Good. Thank you.
Couldn't we use the signs? We have signs that, couldn't you put something on the middle school sign?
Well, I think when Elliot was director, we did do we had something going around with banners on the maintenance vehicles at one point.
On the sign out here?
Yeah, so we could do it that way. That's another way of doing it, putting it on there. That's a good point too, Doug.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
If a homeless person or one of the foster, within 50 miles is a student athlete, and they get back from a event at 10 o'clock at night, we provide a transportation?
We would not, because we're not providing that for our students. We'd only have to provide what we're doing for our students, to my knowledge. I haven't run across that yet. But that typically, because
there's overtime, there's all kinds of things.
Right. Typically, it's usually, if it's going to be that kind of a situation, we do it at our 3:30 and 4 o'clock runs at the high school in Haviland. We would do those runs, but we wouldn't do anything more than we're doing for our own students, unless we are told that we have to do that. That part I haven't seen. That's a good question. That'll be a note tomorrow.
And you promised me before the meeting you're going to get rid of this bus
I'll
picture?
get rid of that last one, because that one we got rid of last year.
Years now.
We got rid of it last year.
He stuck it back in.
Just reverse it, he won't notice the difference.
When are we getting 3D printed buses and we don't have to deal with rust?
Yes. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because what we've done in the last 4 years, we've been getting undercoating under our bus, maybe even longer than that, maybe 5. We've got an undercoating process that we're going. Every bus that we get is undercoated. They charge us, I think this year was, I can tell you what it is, I think it was $2,400 they're charging us for the undercoating, and then we get it for 10 years. They come back. We pay a one-time fee of $2,400, and they come back every fall and undercoat everything.
Oh, nice.
So we did that to try to prolong it. Since we went to the 12 years, we did this to try to help, and I think it's $2,400 well spent. We look underneath them now, and we're not seeing the things that we saw on the same buses at the same age. So the mechanics hate it the first couple weeks, because it's a mess under there when they work on them, but it's saving us in the long run. So that's a good point, and I think it's going to help us.
Yeah.
So with the declining enrollment, are we dropping runs or smaller buses?
We're not, because we're not dropping right now because of the setup. This is a conversation Doug and I have had for years, and we went through this committee looking at it, and one of Doug's last questions were, order what you're ordering and need, but my last question would be, when are we going to be dropping? We don't know where that number is, Jeff, right now. We're looking at it, we're looking at student counts. We had to do some swapping around for the UPK situation last year. That changed our high school counts, it changed our middle school counts, made them a little higher. So I just don't believe the way we're set up with the time frames that we have between our high school and our middle school to drop anything at this point.
So you're saying that the buses aren't full because we're dropping enrollments and we must be dropping riders on the bus.
For example, maybe if I do it this way, we had 4,000 kids. We're down to 389, let's say. We lost about 2,000 kids. I mean, 200 kids, not 2,000. We don't need that. We lost about 200 students. 200 students over the bus runs that we have, it's really not in effect yet. You know what I'm saying? This year, we lost that. It wasn't in effect. That's the largest we've seen come down on our transportation end yet. A lot of that is just going to depend on what's going. We're watch the counts. We got Doug saw the system we have. We put in, and we can look who's available, what's available for times and things like that. And we just can't break away from that yet because of the biggest part of that, I think, is the 3-tier. We only have a half hour. We drop off at Roosevelt at 7:10. We got to be at Haviland at 7:55. So that gives me 45 minutes to cover the whole district to get kids picked up. So we look at it all the time, because I know that's a very important thing. It's money, but we're just not there yet. I don't know where that number is, Jeff, that we start to see that come down. But 200, like I said, that's not going to really, you're not going to see a big effect there.
No, but it's not just 200 for 1 year, but it's been continuing for several years.
Correct,
So
but
when we look at that over a total,
Right. We're looking at it for 42 schools. So even though if we're going to Poughkeepsie for a parochial school, if I lose one kid there, that's not going to change it there. If I lose students at Lourdes, and our Lourdes enrollment has gone down. There's no doubt about that. But it's still not to the point where I can pull a Lourdes bus, let's say, and pick all the kids up on time and get them to school on time. So that's what we try to look at all the time. We look at all those parochials first. Those are the numbers that we tried. If we can get rid of a bus in a parochial, we do that. And we'll do that. But I don't know where that number is. And like I said, when we went through that committee, I really don't know where it is, but we're watching it because that's on my radar, because we know that that's something we got to look at.
Okay.
And we'll keep looking at it for sure.
because I'll probably ask the question next year.
All right. Maybe we'll get rid of something.
George, I just wanted to say that we've always received compliments on bus drivers. We get complaints too, but we get complaints about everything. But this year, more than ever, I've received so many compliments on bus drivers, and it's across the board. We have a lot of people who, you know, it's their retirement job or a changing career, but we also have a young crop in there now as well. And more than ever, I don't know why, but people are taking the time to share with me, but as well as you sharing with me some of the phenomenal drivers that we have. I know when Linda and I come to the bus garage, we're always impressed with the drivers, and I just wanted to thank you because there's something shifting in the culture, and I'm hearing about it, and it's great for our kids, and it's great when the kids love their drivers and when the parents, and so it's been a great couple of years, and so I think culture makes a difference, and just want to thank you.
A lot of it was that survey stuff, the information we got from that. We looked at some things, so
Yeah.
it's a combination of things, and people are taking, you know, the group that we got, the younger group you talk about, have taken this job so serious. It's like amazing, you know, and that's a good thing.
That is
So
a good thing. Yeah.
It's just a wonderful group, and I enjoy being part of that, and, you know, we're trying to do the right thing here for the district and the kids. So,
Good, thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, George.
All right, thank you, folks.
At this time, can I have a motion to open public participation?
So moved.
Second?
Is there any discussion? Who was the move? Doug.
Perry, second.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. If anybody would like to address the board, please go to the microphone and state your name. You guys are all so far away.
I know.
I know. I can't.
Wouldn't
they're
anybody
blurry back
please
there.
like to address the board?
Seeing none, public participation is now closed. On to board discussion, subcommittee reports. Do we have any subcommittee reports?
One note, I attended a public hearing about the new sake, I guess it's a distillery, not a brewery.
Yeah.
They gave no free samples, so it was a disappointment. It has been pushed back a couple of years. They were initially hoping to open in '22. They're pushing that back to 2024. That's the bad news. The good news is, at one point, they had anticipated about 32 full-time equivalent jobs. And I guess Japan does not recognize 2 part-time jobs as a full-time. So the new figures are that they're intending to have 32 full-time jobs plus part-timers. So we're going to get a few more jobs in the area, and hopefully a few more residents and school children.
And I can report there was a meeting of the Dutchess County School Board Association, of which we had a presentation by NISBA on recent legislative activity. I can't say there's anything that was particularly memorable about it, but, we're hot and heavy into the legislative season right now, and things are happening, and, it's kind of keep your eyes and ears open for what comes down the pike.
Is there any other committee reports? Okay, there's 3 seats open for the Board of Education for this coming spring for vote.
Yeah.
Are you guys planning on running? Denise, Mike, Dan?
Undecided yet.
Dan's undecided?
I'm planning to run again.
Denise?
Yeah, I'm going to stick around. I can.
So if anybody is wanting to run for the board, you can go to the district office on Monday through Friday from 8 to 4, and you have to get up a board candidate packet, or you can talk to,
Nothing.
talk to Jay right here tonight. She has board candidate packets here.
I would like to add something,
Go ahead.
if I could. I just wanted to add to everybody that might be hesitant about possibly seeking a position on the board, that you should do it. I was incredibly hesitant for many, many years, and, but I found it to be a very positive experience, and I really do wish that I had done it sooner. So if you have any questions, please ask us, please talk to us, and I recommend doing it. It's been okay.
And if I can
Just
add that,
okay?
Just like Pepsi.
being the newbie, the people that you will be coming to work with were very welcoming and helpful, and it was for me, it was a very good board to join, and I'm glad I did it.
Okay, no other reports. Can I have a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, we have a new Violet Avenue employee.
Hey.
Congratulations, Christine.
Which one?
Christine, the one that's turning red right now.
Can I have a motion for 11.1, special education placements?
So moved.
Second?
Is there any discussion?
I've reviewed the pack and recommend its adoption as presented.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 11.2, designation appointment asbestos designee?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you, Elliot.
Thank you.
We have a motion for 11.3, first consideration of policy updates.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. We have a motion for 11.4, North Park Elementary Capital Project, change order number 1, water systems.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Got a motion for 11.5, vendor agreement, Orthopedic Associates for athletic trainer of 2019-2020.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
I'd just like to comment that the experience we've had with the athletic trainers up at the high school has been amazing.
Amazing.
She does the person they provided has done a wonderful job all year long, and establishing an extremely strong rapport with the athletes themselves. From anything from getting a Band-Aid for a cut to dietary actions and the types of exercising to bring them back from injuries. She's provided a wealth of knowledge that's been helpful to the kids and provided much greater safety for the kids because they were aware of what they should be doing and what they shouldn't.
All those in favor? Motion carries. We have a motion for 11.6, vendor agreement, Mohawk Preserve Pond Keepers.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I want to do that.
All those in favor?
Want to keep a ball?
Motion carries.
Go with the kids for a day.
We have a motion for vendor agreement, Alicia Davlin, Consulting Services, College Prep.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Got a motion for a memorandum of agreement, Hyde Park Central Schools United Employees Association.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Got a motion for a vendor agreement, AIA, the Palumbo Group, Capital Project, Post-Ref, Science Labs, Heating and Ventilation.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Can I have a motion to enter into second public participation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries. This is your second chance and final chance of the night if you would like to address the board. Seeing none, public participation is now closed. There's no other matters deemed necessary by the board. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those,
Seconded, I'm sorry.
I did, Barry. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We are now adjourned. Thank you for coming.
It's hard on a straight.